Imagine a world where science becomes a monster, where humans are no longer people, but specimens. What's the most horrifying thing one human could do to another in the name of progress? During World War II, two groups answered that question with atrocities that still chill us to the core. In Nazi Germany, doctors turned camps into laboratories of pain. And in the shadows of occupied China, Japan's Unit 731 unleashed horrors that rivaled and sometimes surpassed them. This is the story of Nazi medical experiments and their deadly counterpart, Unit 731, secret programs that stripped away humanity for the sake of twisted science. It's a tale of cruelty, cover-ups, and truths the world tried to bury. Are you ready to face history's darkest secrets? This isn't for everyone, but if you're with us, hit that subscribe button and brace yourself for a journey into the abyss. Let's uncover the horrors together. In 1941, World War II was tearing the world apart. From London's bombed-out streets to Stalingrad's frozen ruins and Manchuria's occupied hills, millions were caught in a fight for survival. Soldiers fell, civilians vanished, and entire towns burned. But away from the battlefields, a quieter, uglier war was raging, one where science turned predator. Axis powers like Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan weren't just fighting for land, they were twisting knowledge itself, bending it to serve their hunger for victory. This wasn't a sudden slip, it was a choice. Back in 1925, the Geneva Protocol tried to draw a line, banning chemical and biological weapons after World War I's choking gases. But the Axis laughed it off. Nazi Germany, obsessed with their so-called master race, saw rules as weak. They turned prisoners, Jews, Romani, anyone they despised, into guinea pigs, believing their cause excused it all. Inside camps like Auschwitz and Dachau, doctors in crisp coats ran experiments that spit in the face of humanity. Half a world away, Japan was crafting its own horror show. In the icy wastes of occupied China, a place called Unit 731 hid behind lies, posing as a research lab. But it was a slaughterhouse where human beings became raw material for experiments that outdid even the Nazis in cruelty. These weren't random crimes, they were cold, calculated plans to reshape science, no matter how many lives it cost. Both sides kept eerie records, jotting down agony like it was just another number. Deep in the heart of Nazi Germany's war machine, a handful of men turned medicine into a nightmare. Leading the charge was Josef Mengele, dubbed the Angel of Death for his cold smile and colder heart. At Auschwitz he prowled the selection lines, picking victims for his experiments with a flick of his glove. Sigmund Rascher, another name etched in infamy, ran brutal tests at Dachau, grinning as he scribbled results. These weren't lone madmen. Hitler's regime saw Jews, Romani, and others as less than human, perfect for pseudoscience no decent doctor would touch. The Nazis' obsession with a master race fueled it all, claiming their experiments would save German soldiers or prove Aryan superiority. Across camps like Auschwitz, Dachau, and Ravensbrück, the SS greenlit these horrors, turning barbed wire prisons into laboratories of pain. What did these labs look like? Picture a freezing tank at Dachau, where prisoners were plunged into ice water for hours, their bodies shaking violently. Rascher wanted to know how long Nazi pilots could survive icy seas. Many victims didn't make it past the first test, their hearts stopping as scientists took notes. Then there were the high-altitude chambers, metal coffins that mimicked 60,000-foot heights. Men and women suffocated or bled from their eyes, locked inside while doctors watched through glass, timing their agony. Mengele's twin experiments were even stranger. Children, mostly Jewish, became his obsession. He'd inject their eyes with dye to change their color or sew siblings together to create conjoined twins, chasing genetic secrets that never existed. Others faced disease tests, malaria, typhus, even mustard gas injected to track how fast bodies broke down. Sterilization was another cruelty, with radiation or surgery used to cleanse bloodlines, leaving victims mangled. And here's a fact that'll haunt you. Some were dissected alive, their organs poked while they screamed, no anesthesia, just a doctor's pen scratching data. Who were these victims? Hundreds of thousands. Jews, Romani, disabled people, homosexuals, political prisoners, anyone the Nazis deemed unworthy. Entire families vanished into these experiments, their names replaced with numbers tattooed on skin. One survivor, Eva Moses Kor, a twin at Auschwitz, recalled waking to Mengelé's needles in her arm, her sister Miriam fading beside her. She was 10 years old, fighting to stay alive through pain no child should know. Stories like hers are rare. Most didn't make it out, and those who did carried scars that never healed. Physical wounds were bad enough, but the mental toll was crushing. Nightmares, guilt, the fear of speaking out in a world that often looked away. Post-war, many survivors were silenced, their truths buried under shame or disbelief, yet their suffering wasn't just a number. It was a cry that still echoes, demanding we remember. The Nazis carved a legacy of cruelty in Europe's camps, their experiments a stain on humanity's soul. But as Mengelé's scalpels gleamed under Auschwitz's lights, another group, half a world away, was racing to push the boundaries of horror even further. Hidden in the frozen plains of occupied China, Japan's Unit 731 wasn't just a lab. It was a secret biowarfare machine, turning entire villages into testing grounds for nightmares. At its heart stood Lieutenant General Shiro Ishii, a mastermind who saw humans as tools. He called his victims Maruta, logs, stripping them of names, faces, and dignity before they even reached his tables. If you thought Mengelé's operating room was hell, brace yourself for what Ishii's team unleashed on thousands. How could two nations, oceans apart, sink to such depths at the same time? Let's step into the shadows of Harbin to find out. In the frozen outskirts of Harbin, China, Unit 731 stood like a grim mirage. To outsiders, it looked almost normal, a sprawling complex with barracks, schools, even a zoo, all nestled in the snow. But this was no city. Beneath its surface, dissection rooms and germ factories hummed with purpose. Japan called it the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department, a noble front for a lie. In truth, it was a death machine, built to churn through human lives for science no war could justify. Leading this nightmare was Shiro Ishii, a brilliant but twisted general who dreamed of winning wars without bullets, using bacteria as his weapon. His vision turned Unit 731 into a place where humanity was erased, one experiment at a time. What happened inside those walls? Prisoners, men, women, even children, were cut open alive, their lungs, hearts, and brains studied as they gasped for air. These vivisections, done without anesthesia, weren't for healing, but for curiosity, to see how organs failed under stress. Bioweapons were Ishii's obsession. Plague, cholera, anthrax injected into veins or sprayed over captives. They didn't stop there. Fleas carrying plague were dropped on Chinese villages, killing thousands miles from the lab. Frostbite tests mirrored Nazi cruelty, limbs frozen solid in ice, then thawed, burned, or smashed to study gangrene, often on kids who cried for their mothers. Pregnant women faced horrors too. Some were infected to see how diseases passed to fetuses. Others endured tortures too vile to name. One scientist later confessed to smashing frozen arms with bats, grinning at the snap, like twigs breaking in a quiet forest. The body count is staggering. Unit 731's labs directly killed between 3,000 and 12,000 people, Chinese prisoners, Russian POWs, anyone caught in Japan's grip. But their bioweapon attacks, unleashed on civilian towns, may have slaughtered up to 400,000, entire communities wiped out by plagues from the sky. The doctors didn't see people, they saw maruta, logs, a word that let them cut, poison, and burn without guilt. Some even bragged, toasting their research over sake. A rare escapee, a Chinese prisoner, later spoke of cages packed with people, waiting to be used up like firewood. Compare this to the Nazis. Both exploited prisoners, tossed ethics aside, and served their war machines. But where Nazis chased genetic myths, Unit 731 weaponized disease, aiming to kill millions. Nazi records survived to damn them. Ishii burned his, leaving ghosts to tell the story. When the war ended, the world demanded answers for the Nazi horrors. The Nuremberg doctors' trial of 1946 put 23 men in the spotlight, scientists who turned medicine into murder. 16 were convicted. 7 swung from gallows, their names cursed in history books. But justice was slippery. Some slipped through, fading into new lives while their victims' screams echoed unanswered. Worse, the Allies didn't entirely turn away. Nazi data on hypothermia and other tests found its way into US and British hands, quietly studied for military gain. Was this complicity or pragmatism? Survivors like Eva Moses Kaur fought to be heard, her voice as a twin tortured by Mengele breaking the silence. Yet so many others died quiet deaths, their stories buried under post-war chaos, their pain ignored by a world eager to move on. Across the globe, Unit 731's architects faced a different fate, one that stings even more. Shiro Ishii, the mastermind behind the Maruta experiments, struck a deal with the US. In exchange for his bioweapon secrets, he walked free, living comfortably until his death in 1959, never facing a courtroom for the thousands he killed. The Soviets tried to act, holding the Khabarovsk trials in 1949. 12 Unit 731 members were convicted, but the punishment was a slap. Some served just a few years before vanishing into normal lives. Japan itself stayed eerily silent. Many of Ishii's colleagues didn't just escape. They thrived, becoming respected doctors, professors, even CEOs, their bloody pasts swept under tatami mats. Today, China's Unit 731 Museum stands as a place of horror, carving victims' names into stone while Japan still wrestles with its guilt, debates raging over textbooks and apologies that never quite land. How does the world let such monsters walk free? The Nazis faced trials, but too many slipped through. Unit 731's killers faced even less. Some were toasted as heroes, while their victims rotted in unmarked graves. What does it say about us when war crimes are traded for secrets or buried for convenience? These atrocities aren't just history. They're a warning, a question carved into every stone at Harbin and Auschwitz. If we forget, what stops this from happening again? The Nazi experiments and Unit 731 weren't just chapters in a history book. They were chilling proof of how far humanity can plummet when morality is cast aside. From Mengele's cold needles to Ishii's plague-filled skies, these atrocities stripped away lives, dreams, and dignity, leaving scars that time can't erase. Could something like this happen again? Are we paying close enough attention to stop it, or are we too distracted, too comfortable to see the warning signs? Every name lost in those camps and labs was a person. Someone's parent, sibling, friend, with stories we'll never hear. They weren't numbers or logs. They were human, just like us. Let's hold their memory close, not just to mourn, but to promise we'll do better. If this story shook you, hit that like button and share it. Let's keep this history alive, so it's never forgotten. Subscribe and ring the bell. We're digging deeper into true crime and dark history every single week. Thanks for watching.